Fantastic. So my daughter has stopped washing her hands, so we can start recording.
Nice.
So today I'm having a chat with Stephen Redfern. How are you doing, Stephen?
Yeah, g'day, Mark. Very good, thank you.
And I've got to look down at my pad again because there's too much to say here about what you've done, because I've been following you on social media for a while. And as well as being on the Australian Ultra Runners Association, you've represented Australia in the 24-hour track championships. There was so many races on the ITRA website that I've picked a couple that really stood out. When you came second in the Hong Kong 4 Trails, which was 298k, and it took 54 hours.
Yep.
And then I've got to mention that we were just chatting about before we jumped on the Easter run you did a couple of weeks ago, which was 360 kilometers in your garage, which was well, crazy, but I loved watching it. Funnily enough, watching somebody running around in circles in their garage. So absolutely amazing. But I think what's even more amazing is you actually only started running 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So why don't we start there and tell us about your running journey?
Okay. Yeah. So I'm only new to running. Some say you're not too new anymore, but I still see myself as someone fairly new to running. I did grow up. Growing up from an early age being a bushwalker. I have bushwalked for probably over 30 years of my life, but just found that after lots of years of bushwalking, really enjoying that, I just wanted to transition into doing something a little bit quicker, being able to achieve and see a little bit more than what bushwalking was giving me, and always wanting to give running a go, but I just sort of always found that I never found the right time in my life to actually do it properly. So, and being someone who likes to approach things sort of fully and want to do it actually fully and properly, it probably took me to about the age of 42 where I then decided that it was a good time to actually start and actually try and do it the right way. And and then just head into running from there, which was a nice transition from bushwalking. And basically it was traditionally, trail running is where I started 6 years ago.
Yeah. And I read somewhere that it wasn't it you went from running a half marathon and then 9 months later you ran your first 100K?
I did. It was actually my first 100 miler 9 months
100
later.
mile.
So I actually did my first 100K 7 months after I started running.
Yeah.
So basically what it was is, I think like most people when you start running, I sort of had small goals. I was happy to see what my first race was like. So my wife had booked me in to a half marathon in the Sydney half. So she said, if you're going to do this, do it properly, get yourself a goal to run to. So she basically entered me in the first my half marathon, which I did in May. And then enjoyed that so much, we came home and then I decided to enter the Sydney Marathon in September, which I went and did and actually quite enjoyed stepping up to that. And I thought that was huge. So I had a friend from work by the name of Craig Johnson. We call him CJ. Now, he'd been running for quite a few years and he'd been trying to get me into running for quite a while. So after I'd finished the marathon, he called me up and said, I've got a race for you. How about we go do the Hume Hovell 100K and it's in 6 weeks' time? And I had a bit of a laugh and went, oh, what the heck, let's give it a go. So he goes, well, it's okay, I'll make sure I run with you, we'll, so you don't feel like you're being left in the bush and going past something you're not used to. So down we went, October we went down there, did the Hume Hovell 100K. I think we got about 15 Ks into it. I was a little bit slow for him, so he just took off. So I basically had my first 100K, went past the 50K mark. It was a completely new experience. But I remember finishing that race and I had a huge smile. I just absolutely enjoyed myself. It was tough. you had your lower periods. I think it was around about the 70k mark in the full sun, running around the dam there. I found that quite hard, but the last 20 into the finish was just absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
So from there, that was October. We were driving home, and he'd already worked out our next race. And he goes, "How about I've got another race for us?" And I thought, okay, well, he's already picked 100k. I can't imagine what this would be. And he goes, "Let's go do the Alpine Challenge, 100 miler." I said, "Only problem is it's in 6 weeks' time." So it took me, I said to him, "Look, I'm going to need about 2 weeks to think about this one. That's a bit of a step up. 100k big." And anyway, I think I got about a week back at home and went, "Oh, what the hell, let's go do this." So we signed up. And yeah, so thanks to him, it was only 9 months after I started in the same year. We went and did the Alpine Challenge. And the thing I found the best was after passing Harrietville, which is about 100 Ks, so you've got your next 60, so you're moving into that sort of miler territory.
Yeah.
It was about 1 o'clock in the morning. I absolutely realised just how much I was enjoying myself. And I had an absolute ball for that last 60 Ks. And when I finished, I sort of realised then that this is sort of the distance and this is sort of what I like to do. So, and that's sort of where my sort of ultra running sort of stemmed from. So straight into a miler straight away, and I sort of haven't looked back since then.
Why not?
Exactly.
And so focusing on the mental fitness side or the mental strength side, and again, this is something we had a quick chat about before. What is it that, or what's your motivation, and where does that mental strength come from?
Yeah, so motivation-wise, I really find I love my running, especially the trail running, and I think more especially the distance. It's very calming for me. I think our lives are so busy these days that it's really nice just to head out on a trail or even just head out on a long run, even if it's on the road. And I find I can just switch off and I can actually just really bring myself back to basics and just calm myself down and reflect on whatever I want to reflect on, be it just the run itself, be it on life. And I think just the years of being able to do that, mentally, it's given me a lot of strength to make me more of a calmer person. I've grown up a lot in my life being a very sort of probably more of a sort of a hyped up person, a lot more aggravated. I used to always tend to get sort of worked up really quickly, and I found it really hard to be a communicator as well growing up in my life. So I found with running, it's really changed me to make me a lot more calmer. I can actually look at life a little bit differently now. And because of that, it's actually opened me up a lot more too. So I think especially with the running community around us and my running, it shows that it's actually great to actually share that with other people. And I think in me, it's actually helped me with my work, helped me with my home life and with myself as well. And you know, and I think because of that, I find myself, I'm very thankful for myself finding running that's allowed me to be like this. And I think that's what makes me really enjoy it as well. So I always enjoy getting out there. And I actually find that mainly too, it's quite meditating. I just love being outside, being on those trails. And it's my way, I think, of actually, that sort of stepping away from the busy life and just meditating yourself back down to having a nice calm time and just clearing that mind, and then you can get back and start all over again for a new day or for the evening. So it's definitely a big part, I think. And I think for a lot of people, they all do it differently, but I think a lot of people find that it has a big part of their life, that mental side of what running is all about.
Yeah, that's definitely why I run as well. I find it very calming. I always feel very centered after running, and it as you say, it gives you perspective on life as well.
It does, yeah. It's nice.
And when you're running, let's say your 245k event, or which was one of the track events, or the Hong Kong Trails, which was 298k, or even, you know, the 360k around your garage. What is it that when you get to those dark points, those really tough points, what drives you and what motivates you through those times? Because I can understand the peaceful and serenity that comes from, you know, the nice bits of running. But what is it that causes you to dig so deep to be able to get through these really, really long and tough events?
I think a lot of that too, a lot of that for that would be, I take each one individually. So what I might find on a track, going around in circles, doing 245 Ks, I would then probably not use that to say when I did Hong Kong 4 trails. So I find I've been really good at being able to adjust where I would find my motivation for each one. So for, say, the track event, that was a pretty big competition. So for me, it was about a self goal of what could I achieve for myself within a 24-hour period. So, and you do really get to a point, I found sort of between the 160 to 200k mark on a track event is quite a low period, because you sort of really nowhere. So I had to break that bit down into, I was just doing a 40k marathon run at, it was the early hours of the morning, probably I think it was between about 1 a.m. to about 4 or 5 a.m. So I had to sort of forget about the rest and just look at trying to run a marathon at that point, knowing that once you sort of got past that sort of 200k mark, it was a whole different goal then. So for there, it was like all new territory. You're coming into a new day. So that bit disappeared. So all of a sudden you had a new motivation. Like starting a whole new race again. For Hong Kong 4 trails being my longest actual race, and probably longest time on my feet in one hit being 54 hours. That was really good because it was, again, that was 4 trails in one. So you could break that whole race down into each trail and just concentrate on each trail being its own race in itself. So it was like doing 4 races all back to back, non-stop. You never thought of that finish line at all until you really got halfway through the last trail. And it was funny because I'd sort of gotten into that last trail. We'd sort of gone into that sort of third morning. The sun came up, and it only then dawned on me that it was two days later. So I found it quite surreal that I hadn't even thought about that I'd already run through 2 whole nights. I'd already run through 2 days. I'm now running on sort of third daytime. And it wasn't until I was probably only 30 or 40 Ks from the finish that I was actually, it was Monday and it wasn't actually Saturday anymore. So a bit of a moment there, which was, so sort of shutting that out for that time and breaking that down was, made that one really easy. And I could use that for my, so same as my one around the garage. So funnily enough, over 4 days of running, so it was about 12 hours each day. I didn't get bored at all in that garage. So I had a bit of it. I think it was the challenge of finishing it was one motivation. But each day was its own specific day. And then within that day, I could break it down into 10K lots. 10K lots was basically just over an hour. In those 10K lots, then I was breaking it down into 3 20-minute lots, which was when I was taking my nutrition every 20 minutes. And that worked out that each 20 minutes was 100 laps. And that was what I'd use to do my direction change. So I'd basically run that at 100 laps at a time. I'd do my 100 laps. I had to then do a direction change. I could then have a 2-minute walk, have a bit of nutrition, and go into the next 100 laps. And you do that 3 times in an hour. There's 10 Ks down. And then you go, okay, that's 10 Ks gone. Then you sort of start again. And it was funny because I got asked, you must have been so bored, you must have been able to count every brick in your garage. And at no point did I even get a chance to count my bricks. I said, you'll
have to do it again then.
I will have to do it again one day and concentrate and go, I'm going to count my bricks for the next one. So, but no, it was actually quite a fun challenge. glad that it was finished. I hadn't actually stepped outside that garage in 4 days. So even though I could see daylight through the garage door when I had it open, I refused to actually take a step out. So I stayed inside, and then when I finished each day in the afternoon, because we've got an internal access, I went straight upstairs, stayed inside, had my shower, dinner, and then it was dark, and then I'd start again the next morning. So it was really nice at the end of that 4th day to then actually step outside and actually get some real sunshine. It was like, that felt really weird. That was quite surreal, actually. It's like a world.
And with I read the snippet you had in Matty Abel's article in I think it was in the Week, on mental health for run hunters, and in it you put, "I've changed to have a more passive mental outlook on life." And you mentioned that before. Are there certain sort of strategies similar to what you've just talked through that you think has been the most impactful of your life, whether that's, I suppose, breaking things down into those bite-sized chunks, focusing on one thing at a time? Is there anything that really stands out as being the sort of big, I suppose, the big game changers for you?
I think with the running, you've really got to, exactly how you said it, you've got to be able to break down, and especially I think trail running does a lot with this too, is you've got to look at what you're doing. You've got to concentrate a lot on where you're running or how you're going to run, so you don't, say, trip over or even get lost. So you've got your navigation as well. So I think for me, the idea of doing those running and doing it for quite a period of time, especially with my long ultras, it's not a matter of you go out for 20 minutes. So it's just a short thought in your head. So these are thoughts that will last for hours on end, trying to break these down and negotiate all of this. And it's allowed me to then, I think, put that back into my normal life. So it's made me stop and reflect on what I might do in normal life in the past and go, that's not the right approach anymore.
Yeah.
How about I just take a step back, rethink about how I'm going to actually take that approach and look at it from my running point of view and go, all right, how about if I try it this way? I might get a better outcome. And I said that in Maddie's question, is that's translated a lot into my work environment as well. So with work, I look after a crew of guys when we work on the aircraft, fixing the planes. And probably from a younger point of view, I used to be always known to be a little bit hot-headed and a bit of a more of an aggressive approach. And I think running my crew at work, but translating my running into that as well, I can now approach and looking at all the different personalities. It's not about just going into it from like a bull in a china shop style system, but just to go in and go, all right, take a step back, look at what needs to be done, and just take your time in how you're going to approach that. And to me, that's I've really enjoyed that transition of bringing what I can do with running into my everyday life, and I think that's really changed me a lot. So it's so it's been really good, and it's nice to reflect on that as well. So sometimes you forget that actually is part of your life. So when people ask you, like when Matty Abel asked me last week in his blog, it was nice to actually sit back and reflect on how the two actually do come together a big time now. So so I like it. It's made me very thankful that it's actually been really good for me.
Oh, cool. And just before we jump into some quick fun questions at the end that I'm asking everybody, what's next on the horizon? I have, I think it was on the Running Matters podcast, I heard you talking about Barclays Marathon, but is there anything else that's, I suppose, taking up space in your head?
Yeah, so I probably have about 3 years worth of running in my head. One thing I really enjoy when I'm out on my long runs is it gives me a lot of time to reflect on what I'd like to do next and how should I approach that race or that run coming up. So Barclays has always been there. That was one of the very first runs that I actually researched back in my first days of running and thought I liked that idea. it's a very mix between running and bushwalking style of race, that one.
Yeah.
But being what it is, hopefully one day I'll make it there. I know that's a really hard one to get into. So if I do and I don't, that's understandable.
Yeah.
I still have a bit more to give, I think, with regards to representing Australia and doing my track events. I think that will always hold a part of my life when it comes to running. Funnily, after my 4 days in the garage, it's really made me think about doing a 6-day event, which I've had in my head for about 2 years now, but really hard to actually find a time that would fit into my schedule, that I could put a good approach to it. But I think I would like to look a little bit more into that one. And I think my ultimate goal, and a lot of people always laugh at me with this, is, and they could see me doing it, is I love the idea of that self-transcendence 3,100 mile race, that Sri Chinmoy over in America. So I think something like that eventually would be where I'd like to try and sort of head to. I think I get a lot of personal satisfaction and personal goals out of maybe achieving something like that. But that's a very big sort of long-term goal, but that's always sitting in my head here.
I love it. I love it. It's a shame they were doing a showing in Sydney it must have been a month or so ago. Probably a month ago now, but unfortunately it was postponed. It was on the week that everything was shut down. I was really looking forward to watching that.
Yeah, so nice enough, after with all this isolation, they've actually put that movie up online. So they've actually so I got an email from the Sri Chinmoy marathon team for Australia. Brashar put up that they've actually now made it available to allow people to watch it online. So I got to watch that.
Check that out.
So that was I watched that just not long after I finished the Garage 360. So it just made it a bit more motivating watching that as well. So so if you go online, you should be able to, or if you go on the Sri Chinmoy's website for Australia, you should see a link there to be able to watch that online as well. So it was definitely enjoyed watching that.
Definitely going to check that out. Five quick fun questions, as I said, that I'm asking everybody. What's your favourite race?
Favourite race? Oh, okay. I reckon that'd have to be Coast to Cozzy.
Coast to Cozzy.
Yeah. So
that's a favourite answer from lots of people.
Yeah. Look, that's very unique, that race. 2016. It was my first over 200k race, point to point, and the one thing I liked about that race was I actually had such a ball from start to finish. And with all the warnings I got that you will find that you'll have very low points in that race, I never actually achieved it. My crew was fantastic. My approach to that race was I got some really good advice on how to approach it. And I just loved it from start to finish. And it's the whole community with that race. I think it really holds dear in me, that one. So I'd have to put that down as my favourite race would be that one.
Awesome. I think I know the answer to this one. Do you listen to anything when you run?
I actually do.
Okay.
Yeah, so training, I love listening to music while I'm out training. So it's more background music. So racing, I don't ever listen to music when I'm racing. So I like to put my mind into the race. But I like to, it sort of switches my mind into myself when I'm doing my training. And it's funny because I've actually got the same iPod. It has the same 240 songs on it, and I haven't changed it in 5 years. So
that will definitely help you zone out.
Yeah, so it's a really zone out style for me, the music, and it happens to be, it's just a mix of Triple J's Hottest 100 music that I just randomly got from my own selection, put 240 songs on there, and they're the same 240 songs, and I haven't changed them in my 5 years of running. So, but yeah, so that's what I listen to when I'm training.
And how many pairs of shoes do you own? Running shoes.
Do I own at the present moment? I'm running with 13 different pairs of Hockers at the present moment. So I've been through probably in the last 5 years, probably I think it's about 45 pairs of hockers, which is predominantly that's all I run in. But I've got in my shoe rack downstairs. There's 13 pairs sitting on the shoe rack, and they all have a purpose. So
and I think your favourite pair is the same as mine, the Challengers.
Oh, they are. So I've got two favourite pairs. So for the road, it's the Cliftons. For my very first pair of hockers, and I actually still own my very first pair. Not that they're wearable anymore. And for the trail, it's the Challengers, which is basically they're just a trail version of what the Cliftons are. But they're both fantastic shoes. I wouldn't want to really run anything else for my two main staples.
Who's been the biggest influence on your life so far?
Influence. Well, if you go back to influence for my running and what I've done in my life with running, I'd have to say my mate CJ, right back in the start. He really opened me up and made me realise, and I don't think I would have done what I've done today if I had to choose picking a miler myself. But I think him putting me into that miler really opened my mind up to what my running is all about. So I'd have to say that was a very big influence into who I am today, was him pushing me and making me do that race back in my first year.
Cool. And finally, do you have a favourite quote?
Oh, geez, quote. Can't say I do. I'm not a big quote person. I think from a philosophical point of view, that's something I've never really been big on. Famous quote. So you're talking about from a set famous quote, or just something I like?
No, or just a favourite saying or phrase, or
to me, basically, it's just enjoy what you're doing. I think that's all you need to do. I think a lot of people forget that. No matter how tough, how easy, how good it is, just enjoy it. You enjoy it, and it will always be fun, and you will just want to keep going back and doing it. So, yeah.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, Stephen, for having a chat with me today. Where can people go to find out more about you?
I'm pretty public, so if you can either check out my Strava, it's just under my name, so nothing's private. There's no private account there. I do put a lot up on my Facebook page under my name as well. So I like to put up all my race reports, and a lot of my pictures and a lot of my posts are all to do with my running there. And people follow Instagram. My Instagram is it's Shaggy SHAGGY 072. So that's sort of new for me, on Instagram. But they're the three things that I usually do all my running up on. So, but they're all made public, so I don't hide any of that. So it's just there for people to enjoy. And I'm always happy to have a chat with anybody who always wants to know what's going on or what I've enjoyed. So I love chatting with people now and sharing my experiences with them. So it's good.
Thank you so much for doing it, because I'm really looking forward to following some of the things you've got coming up.
Yes. So and lucky enough, I'm get back into so I've got Hong Kong 4 Trails again next year as well. So it'd be nice to go back and just try that for a second time. And fingers crossed, maybe make that earlier ferry that I just missed out on for this year's race. So we'll see how we go.
Perfect. Well, thanks again for joining me, and all the best, and have a great weekend.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark. It was my pleasure.
Cheers, Stephen. Thanks, mate.
Thank you.